Hi everyone, this is Britt Simon. I thought I'd go live and take some of the questions that you may have. I also have a couple of clarifications and topics I wanted to discuss. So by all means, pop in and ask any questions you'd like. I am going to cover a couple of things. I just want to make sure I'm set up for this. I am going to cover a couple of things that I wanted to cover in particular. About DV2022 processing, but I'm sure I'm going to get questions on DV2020, 2021, 2023 perhaps, so there's a lot to discuss, and I haven't been online for a live session for a good couple of weeks, so there should be things to discuss. So nice to see you guys too. I love this. That's got to be a made up name, right? Your parents didn't actually name you just in case. I hope, but anyway, nice to see you. Okay, so let's take these chronologically and just try and address these years chronologically if we can, right? So I'm going to speak first of all about DV 2020, then 2021. Then 2022, and then 2023. I want to try and keep it sort of organized that way if I can. Let's see if I can do that. So I suggest you hold your questions for the time being, and because I'll just ignore all of the earlier questions. Okay, so I have to, they'll go by too quickly. I can't get back to them. So just hold your questions for now. I know the questions you want to ask on the DV 2020 and 2021 cases. I can talk to that. Right. So here's the thing: DV 2020 Gomez. Gomez case covers everybody. The questions you're likely to ask are: am I part of the DV 2020 case? Am I a plaintiff? Yes, you are. Basically, Gomez covers all the people that didn't get a visa. And so there are 9,095 visas reserved. The judge has ordered the government to issue those visas, but we're not sure when that issuing is going to start yet, and we're not sure who's going to be able to get those visas yet. Okay, so I can't tell you, and specifically about individual cases, I can't tell you who's going to be the people that will get those visas, who won't get those visas, and so on. I think that it's going to be obvious that if a case was at the embassy already, either that case was scheduled and interviewed and perhaps on administrative processing, or the case was scheduled but the interview is cancelled. Those sorts of cases where the case was already sent to the embassy, it's likely those cases will be processed first, right? And they'll get the easiest way through to the 9,095 visas. Similarly, people affected by the Muslim ban in DV 2020 will also, be able to reopen their cases, I believe, but we'll have to see the finite detail of that. Now, and then lastly, the last sort of group of people that may not be described by the Gomez case or may not be captured by the Gomez case is people that, and there's only a few hundred of these at most, people that got their visas but were not able to enter the USA, and so those visas expired. They got them earlier in the year, before the bans came in, before the COVID lockdown started, etc., and they were not able to reissue those visas in September. Those people, I'm not sure what's going to happen yet. Charles Cook is trying to get clarification from the judge on those cases at the moment. So that's happening. That clarification is happening in the background right now. They're trying to look into that. So there are some details being worked out on DV 2020. There's still a possibility the government could appeal the decision, but we'll have to wait and see. And we don't know exactly when the processing will start. I would hope we would hear something in November. I'm not saying there'll be interviews in November, but I'm hoping that we'll hear something in November about when the processing will start. Okay, that's DV 2020. For DV 2021, the position is somewhat the same in that there is still a period of time during which the government can appeal the cases that they've lost on. They've lost on the Rai case first and foremost. They lost on the Goodluck and the Goh cases. Actually, we know they're going to lose on the Goodluck case. I mean, unless something really dramatically sort of goes wrong. But the cases they've actually lost on so far, the government have lost on, is the Rai case and the Goh case. Those have been decided, right? And they're appealable, so there could be appeals coming, but we don't have that detail yet. The Goodluck case actually will go on, and the Goodluck case won't be settled in probably April or May of next year. So if you're a Goodluck plaintiff, you're not going to get any action from the case until, let's say, at least April or May of next year. Okay, so you need to be aware of that. Goh plaintiffs could easily, and Rai plaintiffs, or Rai, actually Rai is a different case. Goh plaintiffs could get some action faster than the Goodluck case, because they have already had a final decision. So barring an appeal, again, it's roughly the similar timescales. I'd expect to hear something as the DV2020 Gomez case. Hopefully, we should hear something in November. Maybe processing will start in December or January. That sort of timeline. Okay, roughly. I can only guesstimate. For Rai is an interesting one. You actually didn't need to be a plaintiff of Rai in order to benefit, but your case needs to be in one of about 23, I think it is, 23 embassies, mainly in Europe. I don't have the specifics, but there's about 960 visas, I think, reserved for people at certain embassies in Europe. So, you know, on that case, it's important you're paying attention to that case. Some of you probably don't even know or don't even understand that case could be helpful to you, but it could be. And it's not specifically reserved for plaintiffs. So there are some European embassies that where people will get some relief for that. These are DV2021 selectees in certain embassies. No, you can't switch to that embassy now in order to become a Rai beneficiary. You have to already have been sort of assigned that way. But again, we're waiting for the specifics of how that will happen, right? So again, there's no point in me trying to guess too much of that. Okay, so that's DV2020 and 2021. You need to wait and see. Things are happening, okay, but things are going on in the background. Let's talk about DV2022. I seem to spend most of my time explaining to people that nothing has changed about the way that documents are processed and the way that DS260s are processed. And there's a lot of misinformation about on this topic. Okay, now I made a video a few weeks ago, probably 4 or 5 weeks ago, that explained in quite good detail exactly how documents and DS260s are processed. Okay, and it's not, I mean, you can continue to try and argue it if you want, but honestly, it's pointless. I'm very close to 100% certain, like 99.9% certain, that I've exactly described the process well. So if you don't agree with me, then it's because you're not paying attention to what I'm saying. It's not because I'm wrong. It's because you don't understand what I'm saying. Okay, so and there is a video that explains this, but very briefly, the high level of this is that DS260s are processed in date submitted order, whereas documents are processed in case number order. And there is some nuances to that, which I explained in this video. And before you try and shoot your mouth off saying that that's wrong because you've heard of someone who got processed in this way, please don't, because I've explained all of those examples. And they all fit into the model I've explained. Okay, so I don't want to get into any arguments with anyone else ever again, frankly, about this particular situation. A couple of points I would make is this is not new for DV2022. It's always been that way. And prior to DV2021, maybe 2020, we were never really sure about why there was an ordering, a perceived ordering of cases which are current at a particular embassy, within a given month. Within a month, I'm talking about, right? There was always this sort of slightly mysterious sort of ordering. And we now understand that that's date qualified order. So we know how DS260s are processed. We know how documents are processed, and we know what impact that has on the day you get scheduled or your prioritization for scheduling. We know it all, okay? It's very clear. All of it is very clear. However, we also have got a slightly weird year this year, right? As we had in DV2020 and DV2021. If you haven't already realized, we've already lost 3 months of processing in DV2022. There are very few interviews arranged for people in October, November, and December. Okay, very few interviews. And so whilst it's not exactly true to say there has been no processing, there have been some appointments. They're very, very low. Okay. Also, there are loads of people who are getting frustrated because they're not getting the DQ email. And I'm getting some people who are complaining that they've misunderstood the whole thing about when to submit the DS260 and so on. And so people are getting sort of worked up about that as well. And people have jumped to a really silly conclusion that because there's been very few cases DR'd, document request email, or DQ'd after May 20th is the date. May 20th is the date. If you got your DS260 into KCC before May 20th, then you also got documents in, and your case happened to be simple. You know, generally speaking, simple means few applicants on the case, very little travel history, very simple work history, etc. You're not a rocket scientist. You're not a nuclear weapons technologist. You haven't traveled around the Middle East. You haven't got 17 children, you know, all age, you know, 17 and 18 years old, running around causing problems with police certificates and everything. Assuming that your case is simple, then if you submitted your DS260 prior to May 20th and you submitted documents pretty quickly as well, right, and don't have a precise date about that, even if your case number was high, you could have been documentarily qualified by now. And I have lots of evidence about cases like that, okay? On the other hand, if you submitted your documents, your DS260 after May 20th, then you're in a situation where there's a backlog. And I wanted to explain where that backlog, what that backlog means, and why that's occurring and why it occurred, right? First of all, what does it mean? Well, what it means is that the case number order is now going to be important. You can imagine the backlog as being a whole pile of work, right? It's a very full email box on the DS260s and a full email box on the documents. The documents email box gets sorted by case number order, right? We know that for a fact, gets sorted by case number order. The DS260 inbox gets sorted by date submitted. But both of those inboxes are overflowing. They're both full, right? And so now they're going to go through their respective orders. The DS260 team at KCC are going to process in date submitted order, and the document team are going to process in document in case number order. And so people will wait. If you submitted after May 20th, and you may have submitted, let's say, in June or July or whatever, but your case number is high, you're going to wait a long time before you're documentarily qualified. Okay, that's the reality. You're going to wait now. Okay, you've got to understand that. So there is no point in telling me your AS 30,000 or your Africa 58,000, and you can't understand why you're still waiting because you submitted your documents in early June. And you submitted your DS260 in early June, and you can't understand why you're waiting because you've heard about someone who's a higher case number than yours, but they were approved because they submitted prior to May 20th. Don't tell me all of that because I know that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, I've explained why that's happened, and as I say, go look at the video where I've where I've explained how cases are processed. Okay. What is catching people out, what is surprising people, is something I alluded to a few weeks ago, which I predicted would be the case. But now I'll explain it more properly. I only gave sort of partial explanation. And this is what has built up the backlog. So this is an important point that I don't think I've made it very clear up to now on one of the videos. And I've made a few comments on Twitter and on my blog about this, but I haven't explained it very well. So around about May 20th, maybe a few days after that, there has been a sort of more or less complete blockage in cases being processed after that. There's been, I've got lists, I've got access to, for example, one group have put together a tremendous amount of information on cases in Turkey. They got about 600 people in their database, and they have instances of people who submitted prior to May 19th or May 20th who are now documentarily qualified or certainly got their DS-260 processed, right? They've got lots of that. On the immigration forum, of which I support, which is the immigration forum, not on my blog, they also have a tracking which I think has about 300 or 400 people. And again, 100% of the time, the people who are documentarily qualified submitted their DS-260 prior to May 19th or 20th, okay? So what happened after May 19th or 20th in order to suddenly cause this sort of change in results? What happened, this is what I want to explain, is that around about that time, DV2021 lawsuits were happening. Okay, and we started to get traction with those lawsuits around about May, right? And it became more and more clear that DV2021 processing needed to continue because the government had not done enough to prove to Judge Mehta that they had actually, complied with, their duty. Okay, so Judge Mehta around about May was asking for information, reports, etc. And the government obviously said, holy crap, Judge Mehta is asking for information. We've not done a very good job on DV2021. We stopped processing for months. We didn't give a damn about anyone. We thought we would get away with that, but we're being sued now. And we've got to explain to a federal judge what the hell we've been doing, right? So what did they do? They took their people that would normally be processing DV2022 cases, and they diverted those people, I believe, and this is a theory, but I think the evidence supports it. They diverted those people to DV2021 processing. And that continued until very late September. And maybe right up until the end of September. Now, I don't have precise dates, but I would be willing to bet that sooner or later we're going to find a memo where through one of the lawsuits we're going to find out, oh yeah, and we'll have to sue in DV2022 to ever see this memo, but there will be a memo somewhere, or somebody from KCC will confirm that around about late May, they diverted their resources from DV2022 to work on DV2021. And normally after July, there are no interviews being scheduled in a year. So in July, at the end of July, the normal thing is the end of July, the final interviews are sent out for September interviews in any given year, right? In this year, we continue to get interviews being scheduled in August and September and right up to September. Then on September 9th, there was a decision by Judge Mehta that meant they had to work even harder, and they processed another couple of thousand interviews in September. That would never have happened, right? Some people say, oh, lawsuits suck, lawsuits didn't work. You're a bloody idiot if you think that. A lot of what's happened in DV2020 and DV2021 was because of the lawsuits. But clearly, September 9th, when we got an order from Judge Mehta, he said he was going to be watching what they did between, where they're using best faith efforts, etc., and he announced he was going to do something, the government then had to pour the resources back into scheduling interviews between September 9th, and they carried on for about another 9 or 10 days, right? Maybe a little bit longer than that even. But anyway, there was a lot of DS260 and document processing effort that was being done on DV2021 cases when those resources would normally have been working on DV2022. So there's a block of time during June, August, September. Those 3 months were spent on DV2021 and not on DV2022. And guess what happened? Now we've lost interviews in October, November, and December. Okay, can you see the similarity? We've lost three months of interviews from DV 2022, and we've lost, and we know that in DV 2021 they spent 3 extra months working on DV 2021. Can you see? Right? There's evidence to support the theory. I don't have a memo that says from KCC saying, yeah, we're moving this team of people, we're moving into there. But KCC has about 28 or 30 contract staff in total. They've got about 28 people, most of whom, not all contract staff actually, but 28 resources, most of whom are contractors. Some of them got sick because they're in Kentucky and they don't believe in viruses. And they certainly don't believe in masks and vaccines. So they got sick. And so there was a reduction in head count because they were getting sick, right? They had work to do on DV 2022 processing, but they diverted resources, I believe, and now we're paying the price, right? Now, additionally, on top of that, we still have this tier 4 processing thing, the prioritization scheme that says that the government need to put their efforts into other types of cases before DV. And so that's not allowing embassies to do any work, even if there was a flood of cases that are documentarily qualified, which unfortunately is not the case. And don't forget, this process they have of processing DS260s by date submission versus documents by case number is inefficient. It's very inefficient. It's the wrong way to do things, because you're processing DS260s in date submitted order. You could be processing a DS260 with a case number like Africa 55,000 or something. It can't be scheduled until next year. Okay, so there's no point at all in doing that particular case because it can't be scheduled for months from now. But we take resources away from low number cases by that effort being done on DS260 processing in date submitted order. That's how it works. It's an inefficient way to do things. And the case number ordering on documents, unfortunately, then comes along and slams that and makes the whole process inefficient. So unfortunately, that's where we're at. So if you want to know where you're sitting right now, you're probably sitting in a backlog of cases, either DS260 or document processing. If you're in a document processing backlog, you're not being processed if your case number is high. You're going to wait if your case number is high. Only low case numbers will be processed from now on. Okay, and we have to. I know that they can process around about 6,000 or 7,000 cases per month. And so 3 months of submission is a big hole. It's 18,000 to 20,000 cases that they didn't process, right? And so I'm hoping they can make that up. Like if you think about it, if they can do a max performance on DS260 and document processing of around about 6,000 or 7,000 cases a month with current manpower, then in 9 months, they could theoretically process enough people. And when I say cases, actually, I should say people. That number is more to do with people. They could, in theory, they could catch up, right? Just about. But there's some risk there that they won't catch up and that they won't be able to keep that rate of processing going for the full 9 months of the remainder of the processing time we've got. Okay, so there are some problems there. Now, if after hearing all of that explanation, you want me to predict the date of your interview, you've lost your mind, right? Because if you think I'm predicting, how this is all going to work out in the future, forget about it. I'm not going to do that because that would be silly. I don't know whether cases will go current. I don't know when cases will be interviewed. We've got the tier 4 prioritization going on. We've got all sorts of reasons why DV 2022 is going to be badly affected. And surprise, surprise, the lawyers are sitting there in the wings, ready to sue the government if needed. And I suspect they will be needed. Okay, so get ready for that. And no doubt somebody is now saying, oh, we shouldn't have to sue to get our rights. Well, that's fine. You don't have to sue, but then you won't get your rights. So, it's up to you. You can choose to participate or don't participate in the lawsuits. That's really is your choice. But there will be DV 2022 lawsuits, I'm pretty sure. And, you can choose whether to participate or not. Participation does not guarantee success. And as we see, we don't, not everyone can be helped by a lawsuit, even if we're totally in the right. Oh, another question I want to address, by the way. Why don't we sue right now for the tier 4 prioritization? I'm sure someone's asking that question. Why don't we sue? The Judge Mehta has found in 2 separate cases, like in 2 years, DV 2020 and DV 2021, that certain behaviors are illegal. In DV 2021, when we had this tier 4 prioritization, Judge Mehta found that to be illegal. Okay, why are the government continuing doing that? Well, they continue doing it until they're told not to again, right? Now, the government could wake up and stop themselves doing illegal stuff. They could do, but it doesn't seem likely. Or we can sue them. Why don't we sue them now before that damage is done, right? The problem is with lawsuits, you have to have something called standing. And standing means in order to sue someone, you need to show that you've been harmed by their actions. They're doing something wrong. The government, in this case, we'd be saying the government is applying this tier 4 prioritization to DV, and that's causing me harm. But you have to prove that you've been harmed. Right now, you're just being delayed. Okay? We know, all of us know that the delay is going to result in less people getting their visas than should get their visas. We know there's going to be harm. But proving there's going to be harm on an individual case, when really on an individual case it's just a matter of delay, that's the problem for the lawyers, right? And it's not easy, unfortunately. So they can't sue too early. They have to sue at the right time. And they may even find it's, the earlier they sue, the less likely they are to achieve the win in that case. The later they are, the more obvious the harm will be. But unfortunately, the damage is done by that time. And we need then reservation orders like we got in DV 2020 and DV 2021. But as we saw in both of those years, Judge Mehta is not keen to reserve for all people. He doesn't want to protect everybody's, rights, etc. He's trying to find what he thinks is a fair and equitable solution for the amount of harm being done. And he's of the opinion that just because you enter the lottery and just because you win doesn't guarantee you a visa. And sometimes bad stuff happens to good people, which is the case, right? And so, he has, unfortunately, up to now, he's taken the view that not everybody is going to have a reserved visa. He doesn't want to be Father Christmas. He just wants to try and protect the harm that is caused by the government actions. So it's complicated, but that's why the lawyers are not immediately suing at this point. Their strategies, I'm sure, are being formed. They haven't discussed it with me at all, of course. There's no reason why they should. They're fully capable of making those decisions themselves. But believe me, they would love to sue if they could. And if they thought they could sue right now and win, they would. The reality is they probably don't think they can sue right now to stop the government applying the tier 4 prioritization scheme. Okay. Okay, so that was a lot of information. Let's have a look at comments. Oh, and DV2023, last thing on that. DV2023 entry period is open right now. The one thing that makes you more likely to win in DV2023 is entering DV2023, right? That's the only advantage you can give yourself. If you don't enter, you can't be a winner. If you're a DV2020 or 2021 or 2022 winner, and you want to enter DV 2023, you're entirely welcome to do that. Okay, anybody can enter the lottery. It doesn't cause any harm to the wins you've already got. Okay, all right, let's go and have a look and see if I've got some questions that I haven't just answered in all of that stuff. Right, I'm going to scroll back a little bit and I'll start answering a few questions. Funny video says, I've submitted my documents on the 11th of October, DV 2022, but didn't get any response yet. Yep, I just explained why at the beginning of the video. Rewind and you'll hear that you're not going to get any reaction for some time. DS260, you submitted your documents on the 11th of October. You didn't tell me your case number, which is what matters for your documents, right? Syria, I've answered this question before. Ahmed, I think I've answered this for you because I recognize the way you're phrasing this question. There is a problem in issuing passports in Syria since the 7th month. There has been no issuance of passports. How can I submit DV lottery? 1,000 people are suffering from this problem. Please help us. I think I've explained this to you before. I've answered this question. So basically, you have to decide what you want to do. You can enter the lottery claiming one of the exemptions that is in the lottery. If you win, if you're selected, you'll have to justify to the consular officer why you claimed that exemption. The consular officer might say, "Yeah, I understand. I'll let that go. I'll let you claim that exemption," or he might not. I can't predict that. I can't tell you reliably what he's going to say. So you either don't enter because you don't have a passport, or you enter the lottery for DV 2023 without your passport, claim the exemption, and you hope that the CO is going to be kind to you. However, that means that you're going to pay the fee. Okay, so if you don't understand that, if you don't understand the risk you're taking, and you don't like that risk or whatever, then don't enter. Okay, if $330 for you and each of your family members is too much of a price to pay for your budget, to simply be denied because you didn't have your passport, then for goodness sake, don't enter. Enter next year. Okay? You don't have to enter the lottery. Entering the lottery is not a right. Immigration is not a right. And I can't give you a 100% certain answer because Syria have screwed up with their processes. I can't tell you for sure that the CO, when you're a winner sitting in front of the CO, is going to say, yeah, fair enough. I agree it was difficult for you, so I'm going to let that pass. I can't tell you for sure. So you have to decide yourself. Okay? Why aren't we sued to fix the DV for the ways it went south? Shall sue the tier 4 instead of suing one specific year so lawsuits can be repeated again and again forever. I think I've just explained that, Martin. You have to show you've been harmed. You can't sue. You have no reason, legally speaking, to sue someone because they might do you harm in the future. You can't do that. You have to have been harmed, right? And so far, although we know people are being harmed by this because of the lost time, it's very difficult to prove people are being harmed because of the lost time, because of the DV prioritization. That's the point. I think I've explained that well enough. Okay. Oh man, I'm seeing people just repeating the same comments over and over, and I've actually answered a couple of them. So yeah, stop all that. Okay, this one. DV 2022 from Albania, 23K, DS260, 17th of May. I get the email from KCC to send the documents at 1st of October, and I send it 2nd of October. When do you think I'll get DQ? Late, because your number is 23K. You're going to wait, right? They're going to process lots of people before you. You submitted your DS260 early. If you had sent your documents, as I've been telling people to do for months now, if you'd have sent your documents in early, you may have become documentarily qualified already. However, you didn't, and so you only sent them when they asked you to send in your documents, and that was in October. And now there's a backlog in that mailbox, right? And so you'll probably wait, is the reality, because every case that becomes DS260 processed that is a lower case number than you will be jumping ahead of you in the documents email box. Okay, so you're going to wait. Could be 2 or 3 months from now before you hear anything, right? That's the way it's going to work, Floorgen. Now, does that matter? No, it doesn't matter at all. Doesn't matter a damn, because you can't be interviewed before your case number is current anyway, and your case number 23K isn't going to be current until, you know, April or May of next year, perhaps, right? It's going to be a long time. Okay. Carlos, I'm DQ. Wow. ICN is SA 1300, pretty high number for South America. Not high, but not low either, if you sort of mean. And you're going to obtain the Argentine citizenship soon. I hope you're not going to start talking about Las Malvinas. I've got family in Buenos Aires, in Argentinian family, and so we have this little conversation about Las Malvinas. In this case, do I need to unlock the DS260? Will I have to send my docs again with a new passport to be DQ again? Okay. The day you send your DS260, it was accurate, right? You didn't have your Argentinian citizenship at that point. You don't have to unlock your DS260. When you go to the interview, you can say, hey, I've got new Argentinian citizenship, and here's my new passport, etc. You can do that at the interview. And so that's what I would suggest in your case. There's no need to unlock. If, on the other hand, you unlocked because you had to correct your DS260 for some other reason, then when you resubmit, you would have to check all the other details and make sure they're still current, because you're certifying that those details are still accurate. Okay, so at that point you would need to add on your additional citizenship and your additional passport and that sort of thing. So if I were you, I would just I wouldn't unlock at this point. Okay, you're documentarily qualified. I wouldn't unlock. Okay. Okay. Yeah, long time, Daniel. It's a long time. Senior blog one, DV2021 selectee, who is Go plaintiff. He said that KCC asked for some scan documents. Do you believe that is true? Yeah, I saw that the other day. If that is true, does it implicate government defendants quit for appeal? I saw, it may have been you, Daniel, that asked that. I don't think it implies that that doesn't mean they'll appeal. It's like, this isn't just one person making all the decisions. When people blame Biden for all of this mess, for example, it makes me laugh that, do you really think Joe Biden wakes up every morning thinking about the DV lottery? Of course he bloody doesn't. Right? It's not on his mind. And similarly, the person who is asking for documents is not necessarily the same person who's the lawyer who's considering whether to make an appeal or not. Okay? So different people will be doing different things. So don't take as a positive sign that they're asking for documents on this hand and the other hand is doing something different. Like, just realize that's not how life works. There are lots of people making lots of different decisions, so don't read anything into it. When they go through, M says, when they go through the backlog of documents by case number, will they differentiate based on the countries of each region, considering that for AS, 2 countries have higher density and lower case numbers? It's partially a correct question in a sense. So I believe, and I'm not 100% certain, but I believe the documents inbox is sorted into regions. And the reason I think that is because I've observed a little bit faster processing in some of the smaller regions like South America and Oceania last year in particular, that to me indicated they were being handled in a different way, in a different mailbox. They were not delayed by all of Africa. They were not delayed by Europe, etc. Oceania and South America actually made pretty good progress last year, up until the point that Sydney got locked down, right? So I believe that each of the 5 big regions, I don't count them, there are 6 regions, but I don't count North America because it's one country essentially. and 20 selectees for the whole region, right? So I don't talk about that one. But for the 5 regions, I think there are 5 different sorted inboxes for each of those regions. And it would be a piece of cake to be able to do that based on a filtering of the case number 2022, OC, or SA, or AF. They could filter those into, through an email rule, frankly. I mean, even if they haven't got something smarter than that doing it, they could filter those into 5 different inboxes. So I think the regions are being sorted differently. The countries, though, to your point, are not being sorted differently. You're talking about Asia. In Asia, Iran and Nepal have a high concentration of cases in the lower case numbers. The reason for that is because they have very high numbers of entries in those 2 countries. And so they actually have, I've explained this in a couple of videos. I've explained it many times, actually. But if you look at Nepal and Iran, they have something like 40% of the entries each. Around that, it sort of varies from year to year. But in any given year, out of every 100 people entering the lottery, 40 would be from Nepal, 40 would be from Iran, and 20 would be from all the other Asian countries. And so the draw process, which is random, means that they get an allocation roughly in those percentages, right? 40% of the first 1,000 case numbers are Nepal, 40% are Iran, a little bit less or a little bit more depending on the year, and 20% from the rest of Asia. That continues until Nepal and Iran get limited, cut off in the selection process. Okay, and therefore there's a big drop in case number density in later number ranges, and it's only the rest of Asia that exists after a certain point. In DV2021, for example, I think the cutoff was around about 10,000 for Nepal, around about 20,000 for Iran, and above 20,000, the density was 20% of what it should have been, right? 20% of the full. And so, so that's the way it works. However, they don't separate processing for case numbers by country. It's only by region if it's anything at all. In the subject line, they ask you to put in the case number. They don't say put in the case number in the country. So they're automated procedures that order these things are not working on country. And there's no reason why they should do. So nothing to do with country, but yes to do with regions. Okay. M, will the 3 months delay cause a false reported low demand reported to DOS, and how will it affect the VB? Excellent question. Yes, it will. So I got pissed off with this about the same thing. Well, I get pissed off every year with the way the government run this. But last year, in DV 2021, I think it was, we started having these chats with Charlie. So Charlie Oppenheim from the visa office started making YouTube announcements and a video, etc., where he's answering questions. And he also accepted emails. So I was able to email him a couple of times, and he came back to me, actually answered some of my emails directly, which I appreciated. But at some point, I kind of got irritated with him, and I sent an email that said, look, Charlie, you are being fed bad information from KCC based on their poor working practices. I mean, I knew what was happening a year ago, right? And I told you what was happening. Some of you didn't believe it, but I told you what was happening. I didn't make any secret of this. And I told you that when Charlie Oppenheim made the DV cases current in 2020 and 2021, that it was going to cause chaos because it was based on bad information. The bad information was that KCC tell the visa office, Charlie Oppenheim, they tell him how many people are documentarily qualified. They don't tell him how many people are sent in their DS-260. They tell him how many are documentarily qualified. And they were slowing down themselves, the documentarily qualified people, right? And so it gave the impression to Charlie Oppenheim that not many people were sending in their documents, not many people were applying for the lottery. And so he made the regions current when he shouldn't have done. And it caused chaos, right? And there's various people have asked me to clarify what I meant by chaos, and I've said a few times various things. There are various examples where I can say this is not going well because you made all the regions current. Now, making a region current is great for the high case numbers in adjustment to status cases, for example, but it's bad news for everyone else because it means that someone with a low case number is disadvantaged by people with a high case number, and the law says that the low case numbers should receive preference, and that's not what happens when you make everybody current, right? It then becomes a matter of qualification, documentarily qualified, and the date you became DQ'd, which is based on KCC screwing the whole bloody process up. That becomes the driving factor for whether you get interviewed or not, right? It's unfair, but that's what it's like, right? So what M is asking here is it going to affect the VB? Yes. So what it will do is if the number of people being reported to the visa office is low, then the VB will move faster than it should do. And it could even go current. However, I think what's going to happen is after this period of time where KCC basically diverted their resources for DV2021 processing, after then, I think they've been sent back to work on DV2022, and I think they'll catch up. I think. And so by December, January, we should be more or less back to normal, I hope. We'll have to see how that goes. But at that point, it will be not too bad. Now, the visa office, Charlie Oppenheim, divides the year up into 4 quarters, okay? And so as long as we can correct the damage before the beginning of the 3rd quarter, so, this is the first, we're in the 1st quarter, there's very low number of DQ cases. And so Charlie Oppenheim will be told the wrong information. Based on that, the VBs that we have for January interviews, February interviews, and March interviews might be higher numbers than they should be. But maybe they'll have corrected this based on what they saw getting screwed up last year. So we'll have to see how that goes. And this is what I begged Charlie Oppenheim to do last year. I said to him last year, for God's sake, find out how many people have submitted DS260s. Because if you've got this many people who have submitted DS260s, which is not something KCC can control, and this many people are documentarily qualified, which is what they control, but you're basing your numbers on this little number and not this number, then you're making a big mistake, right? So I hope maybe that they've changed that at the visa office and they've started to look at the big number. I hope so, but we'll have to see. But again, I can't really give a precise prediction about that because I really don't know whether they've changed their procedures or not. That one I answered. Any news on 2020? I already did. And Martin, yes, I'm doing well. Thank you. I already gave news about that at the beginning. You submitted your documents proactively. Hesitate to send my documents again, as I would like my interview to be as late as possible. Okay, Bobby, don't play games with your interview this year. It's not a good year. You can play games with your interview to an extent, like you can try and delay it a little bit, but for goodness sake, don't try and delay your documents and so you get it. Don't shoot for a July, August, September interview. Don't do that. It's too risky. Too risky. There's going to be too much going wrong. What if you delay it until late and then you find there's more COVID impacts? Just don't do that. Figure whatever is the reason you're trying to delay things, figure something else out, right? If it's that you don't want to enter the USA too quickly, well, just go for a quick trip, enter the USA and come back, and you can spend a year outside the USA after that. Whatever is the reason that you think you want to delay that, rethink it. It's not a good idea. Okay, Ivana, you look like Charlie D'Amelio, who I see on my daughter's TikTok all the bloody time. Hi, Britain, 2022, EU 15,000. I completed my DS260 on 29th of May and sent my doc to KCC on September 8th. and you receive the reply that it takes 3 to 6 weeks for processing. Should I send them again or wait? You should wait. You're going to be stuck in that backlog. Your case number is not crazy high, but you're going to be waiting for your case number. There's no need to send it again. Just wait. There's nothing you can do about it. You've just got to be patient. Okay. Kennedy, haven't heard Kennedy lawsuit for a while, but you're a Kennedy DQ, if I understood well, according to your best knowledge, the ready for interview cases do not enter in the 9,095 reserved visas. No, that's not correct. Any visa that's issued, whether it's a case that's already marked as ready at the embassies, or any other case like that's documentarily qualified, not ready, like your case, for example, any case that is issued from this point forward in DV 2020 will be a deduction from the 9,095. And the 9,095 counts for derivatives as well as the plaintiffs, right? The principal selectees. So no, you didn't understand well. Now, the next thing people will do is they'll go out to Zarthisius's website and they'll look at how many cases are marked as ready at the embassies, and they'll see the number of 7,000, and so then they'll calculate, oh, there's only 2,000 visas left. That's not how it works. There are people who will be marked as ready that will never appear for their interviews, right? So the 7,000 cases marked as ready, it's roughly 7,000. I haven't checked for a while, but it's roughly about that. Of those, I don't expect all of them to be to take some of those 9,095. Some will, and the majority of the cases are going to go to the cases already at the embassy, already marked as ready, already interviewed, etc., as they should do. That's the prioritization. That's how it works, right? But there will be. It won't be all 7,000, right? And so there will be some visas left for other people. Don't forget, though, there are also Muslim ban cases that have been denied because of the Muslim ban. That's now considered illegal. And so those cases that are marked as refused, right, already, they're marked as refused, those cases will be able to get reopened. So the 9,095 will be used for some of those cases too. Okay? Okay. Few more questions. Okay, AS 2022 AS 48XX Iraq. Okay, sent on in May. Yeah, so there's no question there. You're just telling me some things, but you're not telling me anything, Mohammed. You're probably asking no DQ email yet. Although DQ sent on, not DQ sent on, your documents were sent in July, but you haven't had a DQ email. Yeah. Not much I can say to you about that because you're not really asking a question. I mean, it is what it is, right? Ahmed, stop it. Is it acceptable to remove DV 2023 DV lottery? Don't. I mean, I saw this guy the other day. He posted a photo, and he said this photo hasn't been edited. It's been done professionally. It bloody obviously was edited. There was like big sort of chunks out of his shoulder and his neck. Obviously, where someone had edited the background, tried to make the background cleaner or more white or something, and really did a bad job. So. If you can edit a photo, if it's against a light blue background, you want to make the light blue background more white, you can do that. But if you do it badly and it's obvious that it's been edited, then you can screw yourself up. So you're better off to take a decent picture in the first place, right? There you go. It's as simple as that, really. Checked your photo after you submitted your application. The photo tools gave me overly compressed and met all the other requirements. Will they reject the application? Answer the question. If it was 600 by 600, then it shouldn't be a problem, right? If your face is roughly in the middle, I mean, there was this in the DV lottery instructions or the photo instructions, it talks about how much of your face should take up the photo, and it should be at 69%, 70%. And honestly, I get people every year who email me saying, the number says it should be 69%. Mine is 69.8%. Will I be disqualified? And I'm like, for goodness sake, grow up. It doesn't, they're not that bothered about the tiniest percentage. It's a general thing. They just don't want, if this is the size of the photo and your eyes are at the top of the photo and you can't see the top of your head, that's obviously no good, right? But in terms of the percentage and everything else, don't get too freaked out about that. In terms of the compression, the photo tool online crops it to 600 by 600. Hopefully you did that. If you've done something other than that, I don't know what you've done. But if you just did it 600 by 600, you should be okay. Okay. How many interviews have been scheduled so far? What do you think? I don't know how many, but very few. I get people who report to me, I've received my 2NL, I've received this, I've received that. I've got access to about 1,000 cases, a bit more than that. And out of that, there are a handful of people who've been scheduled. It's not very many. Okay, so I know that October, November, December has been very light. There's just not very many people are scheduled for interview, but I don't know the precise numbers. We'll only have the SEAC data, by the way, in January. We don't get the SEAC data before midnight on December 31st, January 1st, each year, because the programmers of the system are idiots. It's honestly, Zarthisius and I have discussed this before. It's unbelievable, but their database system has been programmed based on the year. So we can only access DV2022 data once the year is 2022. Idiots. Honestly, I would, if I were in charge of their IT department, I would be firing people left, right, and center. If I was in charge of the KCC, I would be making enormous changes. Anyway, whatever. I can't fix everything, I guess. Okay, your DQ, your case number is 11K. My interview is Sydney. Any chances to get to NL if your case becomes current? I don't know. It's months away. Your case, even though you're in Sydney, your case can't be interviewed until your case number is current for Nepal, right? And that's not going to be until summer of next year. Sydney has just been in lockdown. Will they have some sort of COVID surge by next year? I don't know. How am I supposed to predict that? It's going to be summer of next year, right? Winter down under where you are. So, it's months away. I don't know what's going to happen between now and then, Raj. I'm sorry, I can't. I can only predict stuff that I can actually, work out logically. I don't have a crystal ball. Okay. Recapture visa for DV 2020 immigration bill is true. Thanks. Well, it's really, somehow I understand what you were trying to say there. Try and work, Sergio, try and work on your English to be able to make your questions a little bit more clear. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. So there's a thing called the Meng Amendments, Meng 1 and Meng 2. There are amendments that try and recapture. There's a lot of recapture talk about the current reconciliation bill in current legislation. The legislation that is being proposed includes the Meng Amendments number 1 and 2 at the moment, but they're not agreed yet, right? So if those pieces of language stay in, it will reopen the chances for more people in DV 2020 and DV 2021. I don't like talking about it too much because some of you don't understand how politics and lawmaking works in this country. And so you'll confuse something being written in a bill with an actual law. There's a long way before a bill becomes a law, okay? And I really don't want to take it seriously until it's a law. If it becomes law, yes, there is help in the in current legislation that will help DV 2020 and 2021 cases. But I don't know when that's going to be voted on, when that will become law, etc. We have to see. It could actually be quite quick. It could be within a couple of weeks from now. But I'm done trying to predict when that's going to happen, right? So, so we'll have to wait and see. Okay. I have a problem. My passport will expire in a month and a half. I already have a new one. I'm confused. Which one should I enter in my DS260? The new one or the old one? Bloody hell, come on. If you've already got a new passport, then your old passport has been replaced by a new passport. Your new passport is the only passport you've got. Okay, the other one should have been, not in some countries, they cut the corner off the top, but no, you've replaced it. So you use the new passport, of course. Honestly, sometimes just a little bit of clear thinking would figure this out for you. 2022 winner from EU. Case number 2300 is current in November according to the bulletin. Mine is O2000s, but I've not been scheduled for interview. I've sent an email with docs and KC and DS260. When? When, Scaramanga? When? You're not telling me when. I can't answer your question unless you give me, the information. Ahmed, you're driving me bananas. Stop. Okay. 2022 case number AS8000, US Embassy in Baghdad still unfunctional. Yeah, it's not going to be fixed. Stop talking about US Embassy in Baghdad. It's not going to be reopened. Most likely remain so. Correct. Been demanding KCC for a transfer. Tried every possible way. Still no luck. What to do? You have to wait. And because your case number is 8,000, it's going to be some time anyway. You can't fix this by continually asking them, right? You have to wait for a little while. They have. They've recently, in my previous email, previous video, they announced a number of embassies which have no representation, right? But Iraq was not on that list, so they're still working things out on how they're going to cover the Iraqi any visa interviews for Iraqis. Okay. So you have to wait for a little while. There's no magic solution to this, and asking 15 times a day doesn't really help. So yeah, just wait for the time being. That's all you can do. But because your case number is not current yet, at the moment, there's no harm being done to you. Okay. EU 10,000 made a mistake. Instead of an international passport, I noted a local passport. Well, they refused me. Many say they will refuse. Right. When you say a local passport, it's interesting because I'm thinking you're probably from one of the African countries that has these local passports. I don't know of local passports in EU, but you claim to be an EU case number. How's that? That's interesting. So, that makes me wonder if you've made some mistake with your country of eligibility. But anyway, in terms of the passports, if you've got one of these African passports, which is local, I don't think you should have been using that. No, you should have been using the international passport. The passport that allows for local travel in some countries in Africa is not the same document. Whether they will forgive that mistake or not, I don't know. I suspect not. I suspect that could be a reason that they could refuse you. But I don't know for sure, and it's up to you to decide whether you want to take that risk or not. Okay. If you actually have some sort of local passport in EU, tell me what that is. I don't know what that is. And if you don't, and you are Africa, then how have you got an EU case number? It's not based on where you live. You know that, right? Okay. Did the DOS reply to Morrison about how KCC is working? I don't know. I didn't see. No, I don't know which question. Curtis asks a lot of questions, right? Some of which he asks the government, some of which he just shoots out on Twitter. I don't know which question you mean specifically, and I don't know whether they responded. Okay. Robbie, just wanted to ask, once we enter the US to activate the green card, can we leave right away for a month or so? Do we need to stay? No, you don't need to stay. You can leave 5 minutes after you enter. There's literally no minimum time. You enter, your status as an LPR, a lawful permanent resident, will be activated. You can leave on the next plane. Or if you're entering via Canada, you can turn around and drive out. And there's a FAQ on this on my blog that describes the difference between re-entering under 6 months as opposed to re-entering under 12 months. Between 6 and 12 months, there is a slight difference there. But you can stay out certainly for a month, as you're suggesting here, no problem at all. You can be out for a month, no problem. Okay, a couple more questions, and I've got to do some work. Let's see. Just scrolling through a bunch of repeated questions here. Doesn't help anyone. Okay, Saudi police certificate thing. These are sometimes interesting. Right. You're a DV2020 winner. You're required to submit a Saudi police cert. However, I can't get one since I'm not a Saudi nation nor a citizen residing there. Details are listed in the government, on the government, and you don't meet. Right. So if on the reciprocity page, I think that's what you're talking about, it says, it explains everything, and it explains that you can't get a police certificate, then that's basically it. You don't need to do anything more. If you've followed their instructions correctly, and you have determined that, because you're not in the country, you're not able to get a police certificate, then they don't expect you to provide that. In some countries, they say police certificates are not available, or they're not available in certain circumstances. Whenever the reciprocity page says that, then that's what the consular officer will follow, okay? Now, what I would do if I were you is I would include, when you send your documents, I would include a note in a PDF document showing the instructions on the reciprocity page as a screenshot and explaining that for that reason, you're not providing a police certificate for Saudi Arabia, okay? Just to make sure that that's absolutely clear to the staff at KCC, but it won't be a problem, okay? Won't be a problem for the consular officer, put it like that. Okay, all right. Will the passport rule be revoked? I hope not. It's absolutely a good thing. It reduces the amount of fraud. It means, it's a positive thing. Anything we can do to reduce the amount of fraud that goes on in this process is a good thing. So I'm sorry if some people don't like to follow that process. And I know that in some countries it's expensive to get a visa, but to get a passport rather. But you know what? So be it. It's not the biggest. You're talking about emigrating to another country. If getting a passport in order for that opportunity is too big a deal for you, then you probably can't afford to emigrate to another country. Quite simply, and anything they can do to cut down fraud is a good thing. So I hope the passport rule won't be revoked. I don't want to go back on that. I think it's a good thing. Okay, one more question then. One more question. Here we go. Okay. Right. I'm going to answer this question, which I normally wouldn't, but you ask an interesting second part. So EU 19,000 got your DQ in September. Good for you. I have a question regarding the interview. When my number will be current, March or July, what will be the priority, DQ date or CN? So this allows me to illustrate what will happen, right? Now, let's say, and I don't know this is true, but let's say you go current in March, right? In March, a number of people in your same number range will become current. Within that range of people that just became current, the documentarily qualified date will be the order, the priority to say which of those cases should be scheduled first, right? Within the cases that are current for scheduling in that month. So that sometimes explains why one case of a higher case number goes first before another case of a lower case number. And people have been asking about this for years, and we didn't really understand it. People speculated it could be alphabetical, could be whatever. But I'm talking about at the same embassy. Now, at a different embassy, there might be a different number of people waiting for interviews, so it might be different to that embassy. But within a particular embassy, within the people that are current for an interview, that are ready for an interview, then the date you became documentarily qualified is the thing that has always been used to decide which case goes first. That's it. And we understand that better this year. We didn't understand it in previous years because there was nothing that revealed that data to us, right? But it got revealed in the last 2 years because of the lawsuits, etc. Okay, all right, that'll be the last question I answer today. I hope that was useful to you. I apologize I haven't been on here recently. I'll try and do some more videos very soon, but I think you're probably realizing that right now is a bit of a quiet time. There's not very much going on. We're waiting for the Gomez case. We're waiting for the DV2021 cases, etc. We're waiting on a lot of that activity. And we're waiting on KCC to pull their finger out and do something, right? So, all right. Hope that was helpful then. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you keep in touch with what goes on over the next few weeks. For people waiting for lawsuits in particular, Gomez in particular, Goh in particular, those cases, very, very important. You pay full attention and that you're ready to take action on your case when the time comes, because 9,095 visas will be issued fast, right? It won't take long. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening in. Bye-bye now.